Welcome to our podcast, Raising Bigs. This podcast is an ongoing conversation between myself and my young adult son. We're ready and willing to talk about all the things families might experience in their lives and relationships, both as parents and young adults, from teens to 20-somethings, the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly. In this episode, we're talking about something beautiful, the concept of hope. Please be aware we're discussing hope in the context of mentally stable individuals. If you don't see a path to hope for yourself, please seek professional help. There is zero judgment here, and we believe mental health needs more attention, research, and acceptance. That being said, when life seems confusing and heavy, if you feel discouraged and defeated, maybe things aren't going the way you want them to, and you feel stuck, it's easy to slide into a low place and continue that downward spiral, which ultimately makes things even worse. There is one tool that we have repeatedly found useful in lifting us out of that deep ditch of despair. That tool is the gift of hope. Let's dive into this discussion. I'm Marcy, and I'm the mom.
I'm Cayd and I'm her kid. It is so easy to fall victim to a mindset when things are not going well. We all have tough times, but how we handle them determines where we go from there and how we're able to navigate through those tough times. It's perfectly okay to dwell for a bit and be in that moment of sadness when the tough times do hit. And, it's important to feel those feelings and understand them. But then you get to make a choice. Do you continue to live in that dark place, or do you grasp onto the gift of hope and find your way out of the current situation that has you down? Mom, I know there have been several times that you've led yourself and our family out of low places using hope as your primary tool. Why have you chosen hope over and over again when things were less than fantastic?
So I think when you're really in that low place, right, you are grasping at straws, right, trying to find something that might make you feel better, that might fix the problem, that might just deliver you out of this bad place, right? And I learned many, many years ago that there's no one coming, right? No
Mhm.
one's coming to save you. You have to be your own hero. And so, in order to be your own hero, you have to figure out how to get out of this place. And I heard a story told once about how, and I don't even remember the context, but there was a donkey down in the well. And every time the donkey would try to step on the pile of dirt in the bottom of the well, somebody would throw another piece on top. And so, like another shovel of dirt on top. And so he would feel like he just kept getting hit on the head, right, with more and more dirt. But in reality, once he'd shake it off and he would step up, he was getting higher and higher towards the top of that well. So when I look at hope, I, for some reason, oddly remember that story of the donkey in the bottom of the well. And when you think about how it seems like, right, life can be just going along, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 boom. Like we're just coming off of a couple of weeks that have been heavy. They've just had a lot of different things kind of hit us and impact us all at the same time. And so I know, because I've been around for a while, that if I believe that, yeah, there's dirt still coming in, but I have the ability to shake it off and step on top of that dirt and bring us out, right, into what I call the light, or a light-hearted place, right? It's hope that helps me to believe that, okay, I've done it before. I know I can do it again, right? And this is temporary. Everything in our lives is temporary. And I look back at how many things have changed in our lives, even in just the past 5 years. Like there's a crazy amount of change that has happened in our family over the last 5 years. And I look at, there were some times when things felt a little dark and felt a little low, but it was hope that made me realize that, hey, it's not always going to be that way. And I continue, even though hope got me out of each of those situations, hope helped me lead my family out of each of those situations. I still have hope for a brighter future tomorrow, right? We just got through another difficult time, like I was saying, and things are kind of crazy in our world right now, in our country. And I have big dreams, right? And so I have hope that through every decision that I make, through what my outlook is, if I'm sitting feeling sorry for myself and playing with that victim mindset of, oh, life is horrible. Like, why does all this bad stuff happen to me? Like, if you get in that mindset, you're not going to shake it off. If you're the donkey in the well, the dirt's just going to stay on top of you, right? And so I've learned over time that hope is the tool that gets you out, a hope for a better tomorrow. The sun always comes up tomorrow, always. And so even when you're feeling like things are dark, that is why I've chosen hope over and over, because it has proven to be the key to getting out of things in a positive manner, getting out of things maybe in a faster manner because you choose to believe that something better is coming down the pike. So,
Sure.
Cade, I've tried to model hope as a parent and have witnessed you also and your siblings use it in your life over and over. Why do you think hope is essential to have in your toolbox as you navigate young adult life? Because it's the first time you've been an adult, right?
I think especially as a young adult, having hope is essential because you're gonna go through hard times. You're gonna, if you're in college, you're gonna go through college where either maybe you lose friends or you fail a
Yeah.
class or things like that, or something with, or, even for me, when I started college, it was when COVID happened. And so I kind of had to switch how I did college. Or once you get older, you're maybe gonna apply for a job or an interview for a job that you don't get, or you're gonna apply for an apartment or a house that you don't get, or things like that. Especially in young adulthood, you're making so many different changes and things aren't always going to go the way that you plan. So I think if you don't have that sense of hope, kind of like you said earlier, it's easier to just think like, oh, everything's happening to me and, my life sucks and I can never, this is going wrong. But having that sense of hope and I think I've experienced it too in my adulthood, has really led me to be able to be more successful. Because if I didn't get a job, it was always, okay, that job wasn't meant for me. I have hope that there's something better
Mhm.
out for me, and I'll make more money, or I'll have a better work life balance, or whatever the situation may be. Or like when I started college and I ended up having to go to college online, I shift my perspective of having hope of, okay, now I'm going to be able to have a more flexible schedule with my classes to where I can work and be able to save more money, or I can spend more time with my family instead of having to go to classes and be on campus Monday through Friday and whatever that may look like. So I think having that sense of hope just as a young adult, but also in general in life, is very important because nothing's going to always go as planned. So having that sense of hope that, things will get better and, this is just one setback, can definitely change your perspective on life. But mom, sometimes I think people describe situations as being hopeless, whether that is their whole life, they don't have any hope, or just
Mhm.
specific situations. But what would you say to them, and where can they find hope, and how can they get that sense of hope?
Yeah, I think, when you talked about, kind of that mindset of being a victim, like imagine use the college example for you. If you had been a kid who always had in your head, I want to go to college, I want to have the college experience, I want to live on campus, I want to go away. And then all of a sudden that rug was tore out from under you. If you didn't have hope that you could create another experience, it would never be the same as what
Uh-huh.
you had always dreamed of, but that you could create an experience that was good for you, right? If you didn't have that hope, how would your reaction have been different, right? You very easily could have spiraled to a really low place because things weren't
Mhm.
going to happen the way you thought they were. And so hope was what allowed you to build what is now, right, a beautiful hybrid life of working full time, getting now your master's degree, and you just did things differently than thought you were going to. But it was hope that made you, instead of feeling hopeless, right, you felt hope. And so I think you felt hope partially because you just kept looking at options and opportunities and taking steps towards what your gut told you, right? So a lot of people, especially if they've never experienced, young kids, especially if their parents were super protective and like never allowed them to experience pain or to experience disappointment, right? They protected their child as much as they could from any of that. Not the style of parenting I chose for you guys. I chose to allow
Mhm.
you to feel the pain and experience the disappointment so that we could work through it. So by the time you were a young adult, you did have the ability to lean on hope as a tool.
Mhm.
But if you didn't get that growing up and you don't feel like you have hope, you don't know where to find hope, you just feel like life is happening to you. One of the most powerful phrases that I learned early on in my personal development and personal growth journey was that life is happening for you. And so back to your college example, Cade, if you look at what you thought you wanted versus
Mhm.
what you created instead, right? You could have never imagined the life you're living now when you were a high school junior, right? And thought you had it all figured out. And so finding hope is an inside job. It comes from inside. You have to believe that life is happening for you, that if you don't get that job, the next thing coming might be better. If you run a terrible race, not what you hoped for, that you have an opportunity to run another one. It's that hope that lets you put one step in the future, right? So you have to dig inside to find that hope. You can also surround yourself with people who use hope to help themselves. So if you're around a bunch of people, and I found this very often when I was working in the corporate world, there are the negative people in the office, right? That every decision the company is making is happening to them, right?
Mhm.
It's terrible. They're stuck there, but yet they don't take any action to move on to a job that they believe in more, or move on to a company that they're in better alignment with. And so if you surround yourself with those people, you're not going to have hope that things are going to get better. But if you choose instead to engage in some activities that maybe give you the opportunity to influence the positive outcomes
Mhm.
of the group you're in, or you surround yourself with friends who can say to you, oh, that really stinks that your plan that you had laid out isn't going to work. You didn't get that job. But you know what? Did you think about the fact that on that job you were probably going to have to work evenings and holidays? Like, does that
Mhm.
change your mind about what you want to apply for going next? So those types of friends, friends that are hopeful, family members that are hopeful, if you surround yourself with them, they can show you how to use hope. So when you look at that, and instead of feeling like the victim and feeling like, that donkey in the bottom of the well and the dirt keeps getting thrown on top of you, if you don't have hope, you can't shake that off, right? And step up
Mhm.
to the next level. So it is an inside job, and you have to be willing to realize that, yeah, does it stink when something bad happens? It does, but it is happening for you. There is a lesson in there. You may not learn it for years down the road, but the mountain that's in front of you has been given to you so that you can prove it can be moved, right? And I have always said, every time I am delivered a life lesson and I have hope and I move beyond it, I can tell that story to someone else maybe who is sitting without hope. And so if you are hopeless about a situation, surround yourself with hopeful people. So a lot of times, just through conversation, they can help you find that hope. They can maybe open up some new avenues of idea for you, some new possibilities. They can listen to you. They can shake you up a little bit. I know I have a couple friends where if I'm kind of in the oh poor me mode, right? Something's bad. I haven't, been having a great time of things, and I will call them up, and they will tell me, I'm not getting in the pit with you,
Mhm.
right? Not getting in the pit with you. Like, yeah, does it suck that that happened to you? It sure does. But what are we going to do about it moving forward?
Mhm.
Like, how can we get past that? So the first thing I would do is surround yourself with hopeful people. I would also practice gratitude. I think that's one of the things that we can feel like a lot of things are really bad, but you have to remember that whatever it is that's bad right now is one or two or three components of your life, but there are endless components of your life, and there are probably still things that are good. Who is in your life that loves you? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have good food? Do you have a favorite TV show? Do you have a vehicle to drive? Do you have a job? Like, there are probably things that are still going well for you, but that thing that feels hopeless, just it, when you go at it with the attitude of hopelessness, it has this ability to spread a black cloud over everything. And so surrounding yourself with hopeful people, and then also practicing gratitude for all the things that are right in your world, are the first things that I would tell someone to do who is feeling hopeless about a situation. No situation is actually hopeless. That's something we tell ourselves. There is always a way to change the situation. Now, it might be difficult, it might take a long time, it might be expensive, there might be other things we have to do first to make it happen, but nothing is hopeless. And so, if you truly believe that, and you need to work on that ahead of time, I talk about that personal growth and that personal development. Like, it is that much easier when you are the donkey in the pit to deal with it if you have already done the work to get to the place where you believe in hope and you believe that hope is the way out. So that is how I would tell people to find
Mhm.
hope. Kay, do you have any other additional suggestions about how people could find hope?
For sure. I think kind of like you said, just acknowledging that it is just that situation in your life that is bad, or maybe it's situations if it's multiple things, but not kind of having that the world is ending mindset, just because you don't get a job, or just because your car breaks down, or just because, you are just not feeling the best, or life is feeling overwhelming. Not letting that feeling completely shadow everything in your life, and having that sense of hope, even if you aren't able to find a sense of hope in that situation, just finding an overall sense of hope of, this
Mhm.
is just temporary, whether it is a job, or it is a family disagreement, or it's a relationship ending, or bills are getting harder and harder to pay, whatever the situation is that you're feeling hopeless, just understanding that it's temporary,
Mhm.
nothing lasts forever, and just kind of looking at it from a perspective of, okay, what can I do today to make those changes to get out of this situation.
Yeah, and more often than not, right? Like most situations don't resolve themselves. Most situations
Mhm.
require you to actually do something to change your circumstance or change what's going on. So once a person makes that decision, Kate, that they're going to apply hope to whatever that situation is, wherever they're struggling, what would you tell them to do next?
For sure. I think kind of like I said, it's important to think about what can you do today that will, lead you out of this situation. It's easy to think, okay, if I, let's say the situation that you're struggling with is, you're, not able to afford your bills, you're struggling financially. It's easy to just look at the long run and say, okay, I need to get to the point where I'm making more money, or, I cut out some bills, or whatever the situation is to get you to that better financial place. It's easy to look at, how to get from A to Z, but not looking at the whole rest of the alphabet and figuring out how you're going to get there. So looking at what you can do today. So in that situation, maybe today that means sitting down and actually creating a budget and seeing how much money you have coming in and what you have going out. Or maybe that decision today is you're going to stop, buying the name brand chips at the store and start buying the store brand chips, or whatever it is that you can do to, help yourself in that financial situation. Look at what you can do today and make those day by day choices. And I think for me personally, that, kind of gives you more hope, and you can kind of gradually see, okay, I am spending less money when I go to the grocery store, or I decided in the winter I'm going to leave my house at 68 degrees instead of 70 degrees. And that small change is going to, lower my electricity bill. And, then I can see, okay, I'm spending less money on electricity and I'm able to pay off my credit cards. And you are kind of able to slowly, even if you aren't able to find hope, you're able to give yourself hope as you're able to see that.
Hmm.
Or if it's a situation where you're applying for jobs and a job gets turned down that you really wanted, being able to look and say, okay, well, that wasn't the right opportunity for me, but look at all these other jobs that are out there that I could apply for and I can interview for, that I might be able to get. So I think that just having that sense of hope and looking at what you can do today and in a shorter time frame to get you towards that goal is very helpful.
Yeah, I love that concept of the baby steps helping you build momentum, right? So when you said, that what can I do today? Also, I would add to that a second question, not only what can I do today to move me forward, but does what I'm choosing right now move me closer to or farther away from where I want to be? Because sometimes in the moment, we tend to take the easy way out, right? We make the easy choice. So if I'm trying to eat healthier and trying to cut out added sugar, let's use that. And it's like, okay, well, I would really like to drizzle some honey in my coffee, or I can learn to drink it black, right? If that's my goal, is that I'm learning to drink it black, or learning to drink it with just half and half and not any sweetener. And if I don't want artificial sweeteners, like, okay, I'm going to go today and I'm not going to use the brown sugar, but I am going to use the sugar free pump to kind of wean myself off, right? And gradually make those steps. And every time you have a win, and every time you choose hope to take an action that moves you closer to your end goal, right? You are teaching yourself how to rely on hope to dig yourself out of the hole. And that's going to build momentum. Every time you have a success, it teaches your brain, right? It makes that path in your brain that says, oh, if I do the thing that moves me closer to my goal, guess what? I'm getting closer to my goal. And that builds momentum because sometimes we don't have motivation. Sometimes we don't have the motivation. It's just easier to take that brown sugar and dump it in my coffee, right? Because that's habit. That's what's wired in my brain. But every time I rewire and I'm like, I'm going to take some baby steps and I'm going to get myself closer. Now it's not 2 pumps of the sugar free sweetener. Now it's 1 pump of the sugar free sweetener. And it's those baby steps that we can give ourselves that can help us apply hope and help us learn how to use it, right? When we're going forward.
So, Mom, how might a parent encourage their big to have hope in their lives?
So I think modeling is the number one, most important place to start. If you haven't been modeling hope all along, it is not too late to start, right? It is a choice. It is a conscious choice that you can make. And our bigs learn from us even as we age, right? I think vice versa can also be true. Like if you have a big who's practicing hope in their life as a parent who might be feeling hopeless about something right now, you can mirror what they're doing and bring that in. But I think having an actual conversation, it's sometimes, and I've realized this since we've been recording this podcast, a lot of times parents don't sit down and talk about these topics that we've been talking about on this podcast. And sometimes I think, gosh, I didn't even have that conversation with my kids. Like I was relying on modeling and modeling alone and hoping my kids would pick it up because they were seeing me do it. Or maybe I wasn't even conscious that much, right? Hoping that they would pick it up. But I think you can actually sit down and, with your adult kids, like get something on the calendar if you can, whether you have to travel to visit them or it's a date with your kid, or you're going to go out to dinner with your kid, or you're going to go hang out with your daughter by the pool, whatever that might be. But you can bring these topics to the table. Like, you can have a discussion much like Cayd and I are having today about hope, and about how hope can help you to build the life you're dreaming of. So I definitely think as a parent that modeling is number one, but initiating conversations about hope, I think, are really, really important.
For
So,
sure.
Kate, if you're a young adult and you see that a parent is struggling to have hope, what might the young adult do to help the parent in that situation?
For sure. I think kind of like you said, the same thing, just having those conversations. I think the same way goes for children to parents that are struggling with hope. Having that conversation, being able to maybe offer a perspective. I think sometimes the idea that parents have lived more life is used as a benefit, and parents, oh, they know more than their kids or things like that.
Hmm.
But sometimes that's also a disadvantage. You've lived more
Hmm.
life and you've maybe been disappointed more often than your kid has, and you've failed more often than your kid has. So sometimes as you get older, you lack that sense of hope because you
Hmm.
maybe have a more just sustained view of life, and a younger adult and a kid might have that young, fresh, eager perspective that's
Hmm.
able to give you hope. So having those conversations and just being able to talk to your parents and your family about that, I think is something that can help. And you might say something or do something that can trigger that within your parents. So, mom, living with hope seems like it's something that you definitely have to be intentional about, and it takes practice. What do you tell yourself to keep hope alive even through the tough times and kind of have that constant feeling of hope going on?
Yeah, so I think you raised a good point about maybe the younger generation being able to kind of give parents a refreshing outlook on that, because, when you get to be my age or even older, right? Like, the dynamic changes where adults, like, we had a lot of battle scars, right? We've lived a lot of life, and sometimes that can make even smaller things seem like they're hopeless, right? Because you just don't have the same energy. Get up and go. You're lucky if you do, but a lot of us don't. We notice ourselves slowing down. We notice that some things feel heavier than others. It's a natural part of aging. And we can fight in all kinds of ways to get that back. But hope is something you don't have to lose. Even if your body's getting tired, even if your brain is getting tired, that practicing of hope and holding hope in your heart, which is really where I feel it comes from. It is being hopeful is based in optimism, it's based in love, it's based in believing in good outcomes for yourself, believing in your own personal worth. So I a lot of times will rely on looking at things in the past that felt hopeless, that didn't turn out that way, right? They turned out good. We have a good track record of keeping things moving in the right direction. I will rely on certain books or certain people that I follow. Like, there are some podcasts that I know I leave those podcasts feeling very hopeful. And so I will reach out to those. I will listen to certain music that makes me feel hopeful and uplifted. I will surround myself with young energy. Like, there's a lot of times where I'll be like, oh, I just need to go hang with my kids, and just do something fun with them. And it can lighten up what sometimes as an adult, especially as you're an older adult facing maybe retirement, facing limited income, facing physical changes. Like, there's all kinds of things that can happen. And so sometimes you just need that fresh, hopeful, vibrant
Mhm.
energy to get an infusion for yourself. I'm not saying you lose all of that necessarily as an adult, but I think sometimes you need a reminder and you need a
Mhm.
fresh dose, right? To just kind of wash over you to keep that hope alive in tough times. So it's gotten to the point now in my life where it's really a default. Like, I don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to think about it, but sometimes I feel like that muscle gets a little weaker than at other times, and so it might need a little more intentionality, a little
I was gonna
infusion.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes I think once you have kind of that mindset of hope and addressing that, it kind of does become the default. And I think over time, it takes less effort and less
Mhm.
intentionality to be hopeful, and it's just kind of your go-to.
Yeah, and experience has taught you, right, that that
Mhm.
is a healthy way to get out of tough situations. A lot of people will deal with problems in a negative way, and then they stay stuck longer because of that. But if you can put the tool of hope in your toolbox, right? And learn how to use it effectively and efficiently and repeatedly, it's going to serve you well. So, having hope as that default is definitely a conscious choice. You have to decide to do it. So, being eternally hopeful doesn't mean you never feel down. Like, that's an unrealistic expectation to have of yourself. It just means that you know troubled times are temporary and you have the ability to move yourself out of it. It's that believing in yourself. So, if you're truly feeling hopeless, know that hope is a mindset that you can develop over time. If your big child, your young adult, seems hopeless over a life situation, know that you can be the light in that darkness just by showing them how hope works, how you've learned over time to use hope in your life. And if the roles are reversed and the parent is actually having trouble finding hope as they're big, you can share your energy and your belief in better outcomes by living hopefully and having those conversations. So, again, please be aware that feeling hopeless for extended periods of time without any relief can be an indicator of a mental health issue that needs professional help. We don't want to overlook that here. So, please reach out to your doctor or a hotline and get appropriate help. There is hope available there. So, Cayd, any parting thoughts about living with hope as your default in tough situations?
For sure. I think it's important to just reminder that hope is, everybody struggles with, but it's important to feel those feelings, feel that sadness and understand them, and then being able to shift your perspective and have hope that things will get better. Just understanding that everything is temporary and things will change given time and given some effort. But with that being said, that is a wrap for this episode of Raising Bigs. Thank you all for listening today. We hope you found some takeaways, a fresh perspective, and maybe even an action step or two in this episode. Above it all, we hope it opens an opportunity for conversation between bigs and their parents. We are definitely not experts, but we can authentically share what we're learning in hopes of making the path a little bit easier for those who are listening. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Please subscribe and share with those in your circles who might benefit from hearing it. A new episode is released every single week on those platforms.
And you can visit my life coach website at marcyhawkinson.com or email me at lifecoachmarcy@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Life Coach Marcy and Instagram at life_coach_Marcy. Where can our listeners find you, Cayd?
My handle across all social media platforms is at the Cayd Berrigan. That's where you can find me. The best way to contact us or give us feedback is to DM either one of us on social media or to reach out on the contact me page on my mom's website. Again, that is marcyhawkinson.com. We appreciate any feedback, topic ideas, or questions that you may like to share, and we will see you next time on Raising Bigs.